This lesson is about rooms. It's important to define room and room boundaries because sometimes you need to know the area of a room, the volume of a space, and also to know the function of each space. So let's see how we can create rooms. Let's work with chapter 4 underscore start. You have this file, or you can use the final file or project for your assignment 4 that you use chapter 4. Okay, this was the building. Let's go to level 1. So as you see, we have different spaces. We have offices here, we have cubicles here, we have the entryway and common space. So let's see how we can mark these as rooms and what their names are. Under Architecture tab, if you look under Room and Area panel, here we can define rooms. You can also check the computations. So under computations, you can see that you can compute areas and volumes. Areas only are calculated much faster than volumes. So let's keep it at areas. And room area computation, you can have different ways to calculate room area. Let's go with the default, which is at wall finish. I just wanted to show you how to modify the way they are computed. So now if you click on room, or shortcut is RM, you see that it gives if I zoom in, you can see better. So it has by default named it a room, and there is a cross, so it can actually identify the walls, and using the boundaries of the walls, define a space as a room. So if I click on that, it places a room tag. I'm going to hit escape to get out of this. And so here I have a room and the number is 1. Here are the properties of it. I can either click on room and change this to office, and I can change the number to 101, or I could have used the properties. As you see now, the boundaries are red. It gives me the option to change the type of room, the type of tag also. So if you go to the drop-down menu and choose room tag with area, it also shows you the area. I'm going to hit escape to get out of this, or click somewhere else. So now I have created a room, which is Office 101, and I have the square footage. If you click on that again, as you see, it shows the red boundary. If you just hover over it and hit tab, you see the cross again. And if you click on that, you will see the properties of that room. So another way we could have changed the number and name was using properties. So here I could have also given other identity data. There are other parameters that I can modify or get information. I can continue tagging rooms. So let's tag a few more offices. So I go back to room. If I want to get the square footage, I can also change it here, room tag with the next one. So as you see, the numbering continues. I know those are 88 square footage, so I don't need to do that. I'm going to go back to room tag without area. And then I'm going to go down here, room 105, 106, 107, 108. Okay, it seems by mistake I clicked, or maybe I didn't. So if you click back on room, you see that one problem here is that if I click here, it will place a room for this whole space, and that is not what I wish to do. I want to have rooms for each of these cubicles separately. So what I need to do is to add separators. Before doing that, let's change the name of each of these rooms. There are different ways to do this. Again, either you can click on this or you can go to properties, or after we create a schedule, you can do that. So the rest of them I'm going to change when we create a schedule. That will be easier to do it. But I want you to practice to see how you can also click on each room and modify the name. Okay, let's go back to Architecture tab. So I can add Room Separator. If you click on Room Separator, I can add lines, but before adding lines, let's check the line style. So if you go to Manage, under Additional Settings, if you go to Line Styles, here you can expand lines. And let's look for Room Separator. The line projection is 1, that is fine. I can change that also to 2. Let's choose blue. And instead of solid, let's do dash. So dash 1/16. Apply. Okay. So now I can actually create spacing for each of these. I can separate these spaces. So let's add one here. Let's add one from here to here. Escape. Here. And from here to, I can go to the end of the wall. Or so now I have created another one I can add is here. And in your file, you should have actually 3 of these conference areas. So what we can do here is can select this, selecting the floor. So you can copy and paste this conference area. So we can create multiple. So let's go back to Architecture tab, Room. And now, as you see, I can actually add room tag to each of these spaces individually. As you see, it continues with the numbering. I'm going to tag all of these. Another way to do it is actually to first create a schedule and define these spaces through schedule and then tag all of these at once. So sometimes that is easier to do because if you have so many spaces that are similar to each other, it might be easier to first create a schedule. I will show you how to do that. Let's call this cubicle. All of these are cubicle, but we will change the names. Back to Architecture tab. Another room. Here. Another one here. Here. So now I should be able to tag each of these conference rooms separately. And then I have a large area, which is common space. So all of this area outside conference rooms, that will be common spaces. hit escape to get out of the room command. I'm going to change this one to hall. One is a foyer. And this is the conference room. And this is, okay, so I have created my rooms and room tags, but let's create a schedule and see how we can rename these rooms correctly to offices, cubicles, and conferences. If you go to view, here you have the option to create schedules. So that is very important for construction documentation. You can create schedules for any element. Here we want to create it for rooms. So let's click on schedule and quantities. The filter is architecture. That is fine because we want to do it for rooms. Click on rooms. And the faces, it's a new construction. Depending on the face, sometimes if it is existing, it will not create it correctly for you because it assumes it has other tags. So make sure the face is correct, or you can check that if it doesn't create rooms. Okay, so I want my room to have a name, number, and also area. So that's the schedule I want to create for rooms. Say OK. So it creates the schedule as you see. It's named room schedule. We can modify that if you want. It sort of looks like spreadsheet. So you can insert columns or rows. You can modify them, rename them. So that is how you could have created the other rooms. So first you create this schedule, and then you add rows, you name them room. It will not create the area because it does not know yet which rooms are going to be tagged, but you could have first created the room schedule and then assign that to each space. Or you could do it the way I just did. But here it's easier to change the names, so I don't have to type them each time. So each of these were offices. So you can just use the drop down menu. These were cubicles. So let's change them to cubicle. And you can double check and see if they're correct. If not, we can always change them. This should be another hall. There was one foyer. These three were conference rooms. So this is my room schedule, and you can export this to sheet. When you create a sheet, we will see how to create sheets. Let's go back to level 1. There we go. Names have been modified. Okay, another thing to mention is if I delete one of these rooms, it says a room was deleted from the model, but it is still in the project. So what that means is that it actually does not delete the room completely. So if you go back to architecture and click on room, pay attention to the option bar. It has room new, but if you use the drop down menu, it says 108 office. So it does have memorized that. So instead, either I could create a new room or I could click on 108 office. And if here I click back on this space, it will name it the same as it was. So if you delete a room by mistake or intentionally, that is how you can place it. Okay, another thing I want to do is to use color fields. I want to have different colors for my spaces. So if you go to annotate, here you have color field legend. If you click on that, you can place it anywhere on the white space. The space type are rooms. The color scheme is going to be by name because each space has a different name. So I want to know just by coloring which ones are offices, for example, and which ones are conference room. Okay, and there we go. It creates colors. They are different from each other and we can modify them. If you click on it and say edit scheme, you can change the color. So I'm not going to change them now, but in the assignment, I'm going to ask you to change the colors. Another thing I want to do is to add a section. Let's do it the other way. If you open the section, let me do it again so you see. So I just selected a section here. You add the section, and if you double click on it, it opens that section view. So what I want to do is to have the same color scheme here. So go to color field legend, place it somewhere on the white space. Again, I'm going to do it by room, by name, say okay. So as you see, it did that. I can also tag all, so I can see the tags, the room tags. So I can see also all the room tags here. They have the same color scheme. As you see, the doors are not following the same color. What you can do is that if you go to in properties, if you choose the color scheme location on foreground, it will also have a consistent color for all elements. Okay, so that was it for today, for this lecture, and I hope this was useful to know how to add rooms and define spaces and how to add color scheme to them.